I know. Every time I start to talk about zippers and interfacings, your mind starts to zone out and you start thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner. In all honesty, zippers and interfacings just sound intimidating. Trust me. But whatever, today we won't be talking about them. We'll be talking about my new Bambii Beginner Series, where I try to do everything as simplistic as possible for all of you beginners out there. I will go into detail about zippers, hems, stitches, facings, interfacings, essential tools, and whatever else I feel helps me out when I'm sewing. Today in this video, I'll be showing you how to make and sew an easy 3-minute pattern for a simple fitted stretch skirt with no zippers, no buttons, or any of that extra stuff. All you will need is some paper to draw your pattern on, pencil or marker, fabric and paper scissors, pins, a ruler, a tape measure, and definitely some stretchy fabric and elastic size of your choice. Let's get started. First, we're going to draw a straight line which represents the length of our skirt. I did mine 15 inches. That's usually the length of a mini skirt. Then at the top, we're going to get our waist measurement and divide it by 4. Just mark it there at the top, and then 7 inches down, we're going to get our hip measurement and divide it by 4. So 7 inches down from the waist, we're going to go down, and then we're going to mark it. Right there is the 15-inch mark. The line going across is the same measurement as the hip measurement divided by 4. We're just going to connect that bottom part and the hip measurement going all the way up to the waist. Just give it a curve. If yours doesn't have a curve, that's fine. It's just how your body is shaped. I thought I was filming this part, but I actually wasn't. So this is what the pattern looked like before. I went to the top and I got my elastic and I put it like this and flipped it over to double it. And then I added a 1/4 seam allowance to it. So this is a 5/8 here and this is a 5/8 above it. And then I put a 1/4 above that for the seam allowance. So again, this is what it was before. Put the elastic times 2 and add seam allowance to the top. So this pink rectangle here is our built-in or self waistband. Now if we're going to do an added waistband, which means we're going to have a separate waistband for the skirt, we're just going to go up from the waistline here and add our seam allowance. So it's right there. And I just shaded it so remember that this is for the added separate waistband. So when we go to cut our pattern, we simply fold it over and we have the pattern for the separate waistband. Now to draw our waistband is our measurement divided by 2 plus our elastic stacked on top twice like before. Then we add our seam allowance to the top and the bottom. So if your elastic is 1/2 inch, it'll be 1/2 inch plus 1/2 inch, which is 1 inch, and then you have your seam allowance at the top and the bottom. I added seam allowance to the other short end but decided against it when I was cutting it out as we are working with stretch fabric and it wasn't necessary. The waistband will be cut on the fold. What this means is that the fabric will be folded in half and you line up the edge marked fold along the folded piece of fabric. When the fabric is opened up, you'll be left with a piece that is twice the length of the pattern piece. I folded the skirt pattern in half along the center front line, then I extended the waistline, hip line, and hemline, and this will be the front and back pieces for our skirt. Again, I don't add seam allowance to this because the fabric is already stretchy. Because we are doing a separate waistband, we fold over the excess upper piece as it's not needed, and we get our waistband pattern as well. My fabric had a lot of stretch, so I decided to bring in my side seams about 1/4 inch on both sides. I folded my fabric so I could have 2 layers so that I can cut the front and the back at the same time. Right here, I'm just measuring from the edge to the fold to ensure it's equal. It may not look equal to you because of the positioning of the camera, but it's equal, trust me. I made sure I left a little bit of room at the bottom for the back of my skirt. If you have a bum, you're going to need a little extra length to account for your bum. What I'm doing right here is making sure that the skirt is on the horizontal or the stretchy grain. So I'm measuring from the center front line to the fold at the top and the bottom of the skirt. These measurements should be the same. Once that is good, pin the pattern to the fabric and cut out the side seams and the top. When we get to the bottom of the skirt, we only cut out the top layer according to the pattern. The bottom layer, which is the back, will be cut lower down. I folded it so I knew it would be equal, and then I went down 1.25 inches and cut straight for a little bit and then up towards the original hem. I folded some fabric in half so it's on the fold, as you can see, and I cut out the waistband. On the skirt, I put a tiny notch or slit to mark the center front and the back. This is shown on the pattern as that long line that we folded before. You know, the long vertical line? That's the center front and the center back. With right sides facing, I place the front over the back and I pin. I also add notches for the center front of the waistband, which would be the fold. And I folded it right sides facing and I pinned. The raw ends of the waistband will be the center back. Time to sew. I stitch the side seams with a regular stitch. However, when sewing knit fabrics, I suggest you use a ball point needle. This is how it looks sewn. To determine the length of your elastic, I suggest you put it on your waist and then drag it down to your hips to make sure it can go over your hips comfortably. Remember, we aren't using any zippers or anything like that, so it has to fit up over your hips to your waist. Cut the elastic and stitch the ends closed. This is it sewn. Turn your skirt to the right side. Now working with the waistband, we know the seamy stitch is the center back, which means opposite that is the center front. I just put a pin there to mark it. Now matching up center front and center back as shown, the two ends will be where the waistband meets the side seam, so put a pin on each end. Now I'm just chucking the elastic inside of the waistband. I matched up the seam of the waistband with the seam of the elastic. And with the elastic inside of the waistband, I'm only pinning the fabric and not the elastic. I pinned at the center back and the center front, and then the side seams, and then I pinned the spaces in between those. As you get better, you will only need to pin the center front and center back. Scoot the top of the skirt inside of the circle of the waistband and match up the raw edges of the center back, front, and the side seams and pin. Now we're going to go to the machine and stitch. Most people like to do a zigzag stitch here, but I prefer to make my stitches a bit bigger and stretch as I go. I grab the waistband with 2 fingers to ensure I'm stitching both layers of fabric onto the skirt fabric, and I stretch both the waistband and the top of the skirt as I stitch. This is how it looks. I did a quick vertical stitch at the center back seam. This ensures the elastic doesn't flip on us when we wash the skirt. I tried on the skirt and pinned the hem while it was on me. I did this to make sure the back was the same length as the front when looking at it from the side. I only needed to go down about 1/2 inch at the back, so I pinned the rest of the hem and I stitched it 3/4 away from the fold of the hem, stretching a bit as I stitch. When that was done, I cut off the excess hem, and here is our skirt with a separate waistband. had this fabric for a while, but I never used it because it wasn't a true black color and it looks a little bit washed out. It actually looks better on camera. So this will be my practice fabric for today. This one is easier than the added waistband, but each has its own advantages. Again, we place the pattern on 2 layers of fabric, but we unfold the top of the pattern so we have our self waistband showing. We pin the pattern to our fabric and cut out like we did the first skirt. With the right size facing, pin the back of the skirt to the front and stitch the side seams. When that is sewn, we get our elastic, which we sewed up already, and put it over the top of the skirt with the round side of the skirt facing up. Then we simply fold the top of the skirt over the elastic plus seam allowance. We stitch down the width of our elastic plus a tiny bit more. We don't want to stitch the elastic. You can usually feel where the elastic is when stitching. Also, do not forget to stretch as you stitch. Here is how it looks on the right side. After that, just pin the hem, stitch up 3/4 of an inch, and you are done-sies! Here's how it looks. But I still don't like the fabric, so I decided to tie-dye it with some bleach. I mixed some potty bleach with some regular bleach in a plastic cup, wrapped some rubber bands around it and slapped the bleach on. And it started to look pretty. I threw it in the washer for the shortest time possible, and here are the results. I think it looks very Alexander McQueenish. I would have preferred the darker orange look, but I will just know to leave the bleach on for a shorter time next time. Anyways, these are the results with it on moi.
How heavy is that? Light work with the bass on the track, on my face to the back like I'm taking a slap. I need a drink but it's straight from the tap. And I'm hating the slack, couple man slide around like the hate in the gaff. Please stop talking that trash cause the vibes in the front all the way to the back.
I filmed some other skirt variations based off of this one pattern as well, so look out for those videos next. And if you see one that you would like me to do first, then let me know in the comments. Also, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you aren't following me already. I try to post every single Sunday and maybe on Thursdays if I'm not sick. Bye, love you!